I've seen, honestly, more collaboration, a tightening of bonds than I think I've seen in my whole entire career. People are coming together. They're more empathetic than they've ever been. They're more caring. They're careful in choosing their words. They want to do what's right.
Hey, Glenn, thank you so much for being on this COVID-19 special edition of Made in America. It's awesome to have you back, and I know you're real busy. I appreciate you taking the time.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Ari.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Glenn, real quick, for the people that didn't see episode 1 of Glenn Ford Phoenix Manufacturing, and for those of you that didn't get on that, can you give us a quick, what do you guys make and why do you make it?
Phoenix Manufacturing is only an aerospace manufacturer. We make aircraft parts. They're there to support both commercial and military air platforms. And that's really basically what we do. Complex, close geometry, machined parts.
And just to kind of give some context, talk about you guys, the number of how many facilities you guys operate and approximately number of employees.
We're in one facility currently. We have 2 facilities, but we're working out of one primarily. We're 97 employees strong.
Beautiful. So listen, we know that manufacturing in Connecticut, especially aerospace and defense manufacturing, is deemed essential. But being essential, while it allows you to stay open, doesn't kind of take care of all the problems that it takes to stay open. So can you kind of explain, Glenn, what's kind of the posture of Phoenix to be able to continue doing the important work that you do in the time and the age of COVID-19 right now?
Well, it is certainly an unprecedented and very uncertain time, Ari. The things that we're doing are different than we've ever done before. And I can share a few of those things with you. We meet with the CMC, the Connecticut Manufacturing Council. We're also part of the ACM, or Aerospace Components Manufacturers, and we continue to share some of these best practices. So we're still, like I said, every day we arrive, we work, we're working, overtime, we work Saturdays. But some of the things that we do are different. For instance, I've set up our shop to be in what we call zones. So these zones are areas where the employees come in, they manufacture or do their work in that zone. And our request really is to stay in your zone. It's sort of funny. We walk around now and everybody says, stay in your zone, so we stay in our zones. And in doing that, what happens is if a zone, if we find out that someone is been exposed to the COVID-19 virus, then we don't have to shut the whole plant down. We know we can close a zone down rather than the entire plant. So that's the micro activity that's going on in our plant. From a more macro standpoint, what we've done is we've taken first and second shift, and we've put a space between the end of first shift and the beginning of second. We used to have what we call an overlap, so the guys and ladies could talk to each other and sort of turn over the job.
Just a little handoff between first and second shift.
Exactly. But now it's different. What we've done is we've got a blank spot, a space between second and first shift. And in doing so, the intent here is if someone on second shift were to, say, from a macro standpoint, decimate second shift, we can still operate first shift and vice versa.
So do you guys run a cleaning between shifts, Glenn?
Perfect question. At the end of the first shift, for the last 15 minutes, we wipe down all of the machines, all the touch points. And we've made our own wipes. It's actually pretty cool. We had one apprentice, fantastic, Nancy Bouteau. I don't mind mentioning her name. She came in, she said, Glenn, I got this great idea. And she took some of our shop towels and she cut them in half. And the shop towels are it's like a paper towel, but it's really strong. And she puts, a 3 tablespoons of Clorox and then a little dish soap in there, and she takes the entire roll and puts it in a bucket, and it absorbs all of that. She mixes it up. And in doing so, it creates a sanitary wipe. And we use that to wipe down all of the work areas and touch points. So that's 15 minutes at the end. And then the rule is when you come on the shift, whether it's first or second shift, the first 15 minutes you wipe down. So we have like a double cleaning, just in case you missed something on second. First, we'll wipe it down, and then at the end of second, they'll wipe down, and then the same thing goes with first.
That's a really good idea. Have you been keeping the full complement of production staff rolling forward? Have you guys cut back at all, or done any of that, or is pretty much full steam ahead as far as that goes currently?
Well, we do offer everybody on the workforce the opportunity to work. That's the first thing. But we've made some modifications. Number one, all of our engineering staff is now working remotely. We invested in some towers, some PCs, loaded on some VPN secure networks to tie back into our systems. Mm-hmm. And now they can go ahead and complete all of their, computer-aided drafting and CNC programming at home. They don't need to be here to do that. So we're protecting our workforce in that manner. Oops, excuse me.
That's all right. It happens. Is that the same with like purchasing, sort of sales, any of that stuff? Is that all pretty much remote at this point?
We have certain purchasing people have to be here in the plant, obviously, because they're receiving and sending out material. But for the most part, those folks will be home. They aren't currently. Because primarily we were setting them up to get them out on the next wave. We hope to have them out next week. But the purchasing is out. We have accounts payable out. Some of the finance is already remote. That was the second wave. And then the last folks that we make some disposition for was what we call at-risk folks, people of the more mature age, except for me. We allow them to say, if you'd like to, leave the plant, take an unemployment compensation package for a period of time between now and the end of April. Right now we're saying May 4th. If you'd like to do that, we fully understand, and we'll help you, apply for that, and then you can go ahead and go home.
And has that been a big impact on your ability to produce, or that's been manageable so far?
It's with anything. When you're missing some experts, you slow down a little bit. But I'm happy to say that during our past podcast, we talked about training. Cross-pollination, the workforce, making sure people were actually doing the work that they needed to do on the machine, and OJT and good culture. Well, I got to say that right now is more important than anything. The young folks out here, they're like soldiers. They're charging at the mountain. They know the bullets are flying at them, but to come in every day, they're doing good work. They continue to do that good work, and as a result, our production hasn't really been affected too much. A little bit, but not too much.
Are you guys getting any of the, clearly the at-risk people, whether it's people that are more advanced age or people that might be more inclined to be sick or have underlying conditions? What about any impact relative to school closures? I know from IT Direct perspective, our workforce is generally a bit younger, but the school closures, that's been a challenge.
I haven't seen personally a great effect on school closures. The good thing is, if we're considered essential, and then maybe the spouse on the other side is a non-essential. So they're working as a team to take care of the kids at home. As a result, I don't really see a big impact.
Got it. Got it. Got it. What about in terms of managing, Glenn? I know you guys kind of have those production meetings right on your floor. You've got the big board. You guys would start your shifts kind of going through where things are in process and how to improve that, which, before COVID-19, I'm sure not only is a great way to keep throughput, but keeps people kind of working together and marching in the same direction. What are you doing now to keep the team together when you can't have those group huddles that you guys would have on a daily basis?
Well, we did pare down our Gemba walk.
Yep.
If you recall, we do meet in the shop, and then we do our walk through the plant. We talk to everybody, find out where the gaps are for the day, and then try to bridge those. So now we've taken 80% of our team and said, you're not going to go ahead and accompany us on the Gemba walk in the interests of social distancing. So it's myself and our manufacturing director, and we walk through the plant 6 feet apart, and we talk to everybody and find out where those gaps are. When we get back to our office, then we start making phone calls, texts, whatever we need to do to make sure we can close those gaps for our employees.
Yeah. And just from a management standpoint, what kind of new technology or what technology that you already had are you guys using more to be able to get work done and keeping social distancing?
What a great question. Now, if you recall, we had this policy with cell phones on our cell floor. We'd like to try to keep the cell phones off the cell floor, had a little mailbox for everybody to put their cell phones in. Well, you can't fight that anymore. Right now, I'd like everybody to have their cell phone. So what happens is we use our cell phones to text each other because you got to stay in your zone. Let's say, for instance, a assembly professional has just finished assembling a part. We do what they call a first piece. It's got to go to inspection. Inspection's got to approve it, and then he can assemble the rest of the lot. So instead of him walking that part down like you normally do, talk to the guys, put it on the inspector's desk, make sure that the baseball is really good at spring training.
Yep,
you know what I'm saying? Instead,
I do.
They just text and say, hey, I got a part. I'm going to walk it down and put it into the outside of inspection. It's going to be on a first piece rack. You got to get it, inspect it, and then text me back when it's completed. So that seems to be working really well. Again, like I said, we bought all these towers, these PCs, loaded them up and sent those out with our engineers. So the VPN network that we're using is a really good method to make sure we have secure, dialogue between the PC in the employee's home and our systems over here. And it seems to be working flawlessly.
That's great. What about any kind of management? You guys doing? We're video conferencing now. You guys doing any video conferencing or using any of that to do meetings or huddles or anything with the folks that are working at home primarily?
Once a day at 4:00, we have a meeting with the engineering team to go over what they've done, what challenges they've had, and then try to bridge those gaps as well. So that's one thing we do. Other technologies that we're using internally, are more, I guess, controller based. It's hard to explain that to most people, but in manufacturing, we all know what that means. We're extracting data out of the controller to be able to help us understand how the cycle times are proceeding in the machine. What are the efficiencies of each individual on the machine? And then we can look at that and say, what do we plan in our production? And we're virtually meeting. Sometimes we physically meet. We have that big training room. So we'll meet in there and we'll spread out very few people, and we'll talk about, our automated production scheduling system to make sure that the materials that are going to go through the machines are the right materials at the right time to optimize as many parts as we can, out the door for our customer, every day. So it's a pretty big deal.
Are you guys having any challenges in terms of machine maintenance or like needing to get any vendors into the building, and how's that, what have been your procedures or policies there?
We have a very strict policy where no one is allowed outside or inside the building if they're from an external source, with one exception. If a machine goes down, we need to get the machine up. So we're talking the machine being factory-based, all the fabric. If the air conditioning goes down, we're controlled for manufacturing purposes throughout the entire plant. So if air conditioning or some HVAC were to go down, we need to call those people in. From a machining standpoint, we have to have people in to continue to calibrate our machines and do some TPM. We can't, give up on that.
No.
So what we've done for those people who come in, we have a COVID agreement that they sign when they come in that says, I have not been exposed knowingly to anybody with COVID, and I have been healthy, and I don't show signs of COVID, which is, no temperature, no cough, no shortness of breath. And then they sign this agreement. We keep that in our factory.
And that's been pretty successful, you feel like, and the team's confident in that, which I think is crucially important.
I think it seems to be working well. Nothing's foolproof, but I think that you got to rely on the integrity of the individuals on the outside. I'm one of those people who think that the people's people are good, most of them. Maybe less than 1% or not. So I think that these folks have the integrity when they come in to give us the truth. Now, on the flip side, I just scheduled a laser alignment for one of our vertical mills, and that laser alignment, the company called and said, has anybody in your company shown signs of COVID?
Sure, they
want
to know the same thing, right? They don't want their people getting sick either.
Exactly. So they're just as concerned as we are.
Yeah. What are you, speaking of concern, what are you hearing from the staff? Like, are you having any concerns? Are people nervous? What are they, as you're the leader, people look to you, Glenn. How are you leading people through this? What's been your message, to the troops?
Wow. Different than ever before. Here's my message to leaders, and I'll steal a little bit from some of my peers who've given a lot of great insight. But we're here. How did one person put it? We're the warm blanket in a cold night right now. We have to keep people calm. We have to give people facts. You have to quell all the invento facts that are out there. Because there's so many. Many. Yeah, it's just like, you hear some pretty cockamamie stuff that one person tells another, and it comes back and it's just, wow, I can't believe you even propagated that invento fact. So we have to give them some facts. The best way we can do that ourselves is study, read, understand, contact experts, get the facts before you talk to your people. And then when you do talk to your people, let them know if they want to know anything about this coronavirus and the effects that it's having on your business or the economy or the world. As far as as best you can, you will give them only the facts. And I think in doing that, the folks on the floor, they look up to you and they say, if I need to really know something, I can ask that leader and they will give me the facts. So that's very important.
Do you guys do any regular cadence communication? Do you have any signage or post any updates kind of about what's happening around the plant or via email or however?
Yeah, good question. We have what we call a COVID-19 board. It's on the way out, where everybody can read it. We ask that people don't huddle around there, obviously, but we do post communications at least once or twice a week. One of the things we do is the Connecticut Manufacturing Collaborative is now gathering questions from the manufacturing base. In turn, they go out, research those questions, and answer them. And when we get those questions back, we post them. And what happens is people, they can read those and understand what's going on.
Yeah. So I think that's actually brings another important thing I want to talk about. I know, you're big in ACM. You've mentioned the CMC a couple times. What are you seeing out there in terms of the Connecticut manufacturing base and us working together, or are we falling apart and fighting? Where are we right now, and what do you see moving forward on that front?
I've seen, honestly, more collaboration, a tightening of bonds than I think I've seen in my whole entire career. People are coming together. They're more empathetic than they've ever been. They're more caring. They're careful in choosing their words. They want to do what's right. And in these organizations that we're taking part of, we're making recommendations to the state of Connecticut. We're working actively with Colin Cooper. We're working with Kurt Westby. We're talking with Commissioner Lehman. And what we're doing is we're asking them to proceed very carefully with this coronavirus with respect to manufacturing in the state, in the region. We're in the hotbed right now. It's no secret. And, we're that kind of a group that we're thinkers, and we're pulling together to try to get these innovative solutions that have never probably been expressed before. And in that, we realized that we're going to have to do something we probably have never done before to be able to stem this this wave, to take the peak and move it and flatten it, what they call flattening the curve. Yeah. So everybody's coming up with great ideas. The stuff that I've seen, the information that people are bringing, the participation is fantastic. It's amazing. We meet 3 times a week, the CMC and all of the groups, the ACM, AMEP, EMA, the Small Manufacturers Association, NHMA. We're all there. We're all talking. We're all collaborating. So I think it's an amazing thing today that's going on, to be able to find out.
If there's a manufacturing leader that's watching this podcast and wants to kind of get engaged and be able to share some of their lessons learned and learn some stuff, what's the best way for them to get involved? Who should they reach out to? CMC, what's the best place to get engaged, do you think?
There are different groups that you can contact. You have manufacturing organizations all over the state of Connecticut. The best thing to do is to reach out to one of those manufacturing organizations in your region, and everybody has a website, so you can easily find out who you need to talk to, and either join the organization or reach out to get information on how you can get the information from the organization, because it's free flowing information. So that's what I would suggest. That's involved.
Awesome. You know what? To that point, I think we'll put in the show notes and in some of the links, we'll put in there SMA, NHMA, EMA, ACM. We'll kind of get all that stuff in, out there. So people, CMTA, all that kind of stuff. So people can kind of look that up. So we'll definitely do that. So, Glenn, I think, as we start to kind of wrap up a little bit, I think that there's always, whenever it gets dark and whenever things are bad, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's always some opportunity. What do you see that Connecticut manufacturers should be thinking of how they can position themselves to be winners when this thing is over, and to come out of this thing strong and super effective and get us back to where we were, 4 weeks ago, not talking about how we're going to survive through this, but talking about how orders were up and how would we find staff? What's the opportunity you see, and how do we get there?
Well, that's a complex situation, complex question to ask. But, if I could just anecdotally give a roadmap, Please. It starts from the top. We got OEMs that are big in Connecticut. You got Pratt Whitney, Collins, Electric Boat, Sikorsky. These big organizations in our state have to understand that they're going to be the lifeblood to the regional economy going forward. There's no secret. We're at the beginning of this economic downturn. I certainly hope that it's not as bad as what the pundits are predicting, but you have to listen to what they're saying and keep optimistic. But if we are looking at an economic turmoil that's going to follow the coronavirus, then these big OEMs have to support all of the mid and small market companies in our region by allowing them to do the work that they need done. I'm a proponent to keep it close at home, not farm it out to overseas companies. I know we've got emerging markets we need to compete in, but right now it's about being home. It's about keeping your home and the USA strong. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, now if you're a small and mid-market company, you've got to have some good systemic thinking and look down the road. Start preparing now to be able to weather this storm. Do you have simulations that are mapping out what will happen if your cash flow is constrained? Do you have simulations related to what happens if certain products are pulled out of your schedule? Have you had simulations, or are you doing an analysis to figure out how can you survive if everything just crumbles around you? You prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So that's the first thing. If you do this, if we all do this together, we're in this together. I see nothing but just a wonderful economic time for the region in the future. And here's why. I think that the U.S. government is going to infuse a lot more military work in our area into these OEMs. And I think if that military work flows down into the these small and mid-market companies that support these OEMs, it's just going to provide a really good economic foundation for the state of Connecticut and our region. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Are you going through those exercises, Glenn? You guys going through and thinking about, the different stages of what to do, and any thoughts or tips for people that don't have experience doing that on where they get started? Like, you talk about the simulations, where do they start? How does someone get some resources? Where do they start thinking about that to do that smartly?
We're thinking about this, right? I mean, because it's something that's never really been thought before. When do you simulate a pandemic? And when do you simulate, total world war against an enemy you can't see? It's not something that you think about every day. So the resources that we've at least extracted is the knowledge of the people who we have working with us, is the networks in like the CMC, the ACM, EMA. All of those networks are really important. Again, going back to, it's really important to connect with these folks, because these simulations aren't really fully developed yet. They may be out there, but they were developed based on, well, it might happen. Now we're here. It really is happening. Now, what are the tried and proven simulations or methods you can use to forecast what could happen to your business in the future? And you really have to study it. It's the time for thinking. It's not the time for using a boilerplate a lot of times. And that's where we are right now today. Hopefully that makes sense.
It does. And listen, I just want to, end on sort of asking you this kind of, bigger picture question. I think better days are always ahead. It's just how long it takes to get there. And you and I sort of talked offline ahead of time. I think it's pretty fair to say that in the future, we're not going to go back to the era of the steamships. People are going to continue to fly, just like people are going to continue to use computers, and they're going to continue to use the medical devices and the submarines and the boats and the cars and the other stuff that the people in Connecticut are making. So the real question is, what fills you with hope when you take a step back and you look at what's happening in Connecticut in response to this coronavirus? What gives you hope for a positive tomorrow?
You're right. Prior to this, we were in the biggest uptick for aerospace that there ever was. Our maritime is so strong. It's the strongest it's been since World War II. We really are in an era where we're growing the United States economy through the manufacturing that we have done and we will do. That's not going away. It will be here. People will fly again. People will still take cruises. The military is still going to need the hardware that they have today more than ever. And my thinking is that when we get through this, people are going to want to fly. They're going to want to take a vacation. They're going to want to go down to the Caribbean, to Hawaii. Those people who wanted to go to Fiji, their whole life, and go out to the Maldive Islands and those little beautiful vacation resort hotels, they're going to do it because now they realize, why wait? Why save for something that may never come? And I think that when this is over, oh my God, it's going to be a bigger boon than what we really realized before the coronavirus. So there's a lot of positivity out there when this is done. I don't know how long that's going to be, but mark that down in your notes, and let's see if what I'm saying really, really does come to fruition, because I really believe it will.
That's awesome, Glenn. Listen, I super appreciate you coming on and sharing your views and your positivity, what you guys are doing up there in Phoenix. It's always a pleasure having you on. And, I look forward to when the social distancing is over and we can get together and toast a drink back.
Yeah, here's a toast to you right now. Notice this beautiful cup. Thank you, Ari. Thank you for asking me to come on.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct.
As always, thanks so much for tuning in. I definitely want your feedback and hope you subscribe. But what I want the most is to build a community where we learn and grow with each other. I hope you're getting a lot of value out of the time we're spending together. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time.